Hello everyone, I'm Santiago and today I'm going to be testing Death Stranding 2 on the beach on Steam Deck. So, I'm a little bit late for this one, I'm sorry about that. I want to thank Benchmark King for providing the saves for this game. So I have multiple sections showing the worst performance that I can find. So huge thanks to him. I left his channel link to his video on optimized settings for Death Stranding 2 in the pinned comment. Go say hi, tell him I sent you. That's why I have 21 achievements and 30 minutes of playtime. When it comes to Steam Deck compatibility, there's no badge as of yet, which I find pretty interesting because this game has been out for a few days. Alright, so welcome to the options menu, 800p. Let me disable VSync. But we're using the default settings right away. There's a portable preset, so portable, low, medium, high, or very high. Let's stay on portable for now and see what happens. Apparently it doesn't run particularly great, but hey, we gotta give it a shot. So this is the absolute lowest at 800p. Right now I'm seeing black bars at the top and bottom of the screen, and the upscale method is on Pico, on balanced. So progressive image compositor, I'm guessing this is what they use on, this is what they use on PS5. And it actually looks pretty good, much better than FSR 3, that's for sure. And I want to thank Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Instant Gaming is a website to get cheaper games for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Right now you can get Crimson Desert for $58.68 US, both PC and Mac, so one key for both of them. Come Deliverance 2 for $23.83, or one of the best deals so far, Hogwarts Legacy for $8.7 US. And Death Stranding 2 on the beach for PC for $57.30. I personally got the deluxe edition for $64.18 on this exact website. With this partnership, we're giving away one free game to one of you guys each month from Instant Gaming. Hit participate, follow myself and Instant Gaming in social media. So thanks again to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Let's continue. Okay, so welcome to Death Stranding 2. This is the very beginning of the game and I'm getting 20s. This unbalanced upscaling using Pico. So let's try to go to performance. So performance upscaling, the lowest it can go on Pico. Yeah, mid-20s here. When I start moving though, it drops into the low 20s. So bad start. And it's not fully utilizing the GPU for some reason. But hey. The game is one of the best looking games, at least when it comes to characters and environments on PS5. Oof, the low resolution really is noticeable, but this is just the beginning of the game. This is why the save file that Benchmark King provided is so useful. So, whoa. So let's get ahead into the game and see how it runs. Okay, so now we're outside, much further into the game. The CPU maxes out very quickly on a couple cores. That drops the GPU performance. The GPU can go up to 1600 MHz, but here it's stuck into the thousands because the CPU is using all that power. So yeah, it gets even worse as you get ahead into the game, as you can see. So the beginning of the game is not a good test, but that's usually the case. So yeah, just for a sanity check, I'm going to restart the game. So one sec. Restart of the game, same behavior. Let's try some stuff that we usually do in this channel, like locking the GPU clock to something higher. So down here, GPU clock, let's put it at 1200 or 1300. So now we're forcing the GPU to get that higher frequency, but the CPU is still the bottleneck, especially when you start moving around. This is consistent with what I saw and many other people saw on the game running on PC. Very, very heavy when it comes to GPU. So yeah, locking the GPU clock kind of improved things a little bit, but we still get into the teens when it comes to performance. Okay, so now to one of the most visually interesting pieces of this game, the fireworks part. And it's into the 20s. If I move faster, let's see what happens. Yes, into the 20s. So it's not that far off from the open world section that I was showing you a moment ago. But there's a huge amount of particles, so I'm stressing the game to its absolute limit. Yeah, here it drops into the 20s. So there's way more action here. This is the same thing that I did when I tested the original game on Steam Deck. I tried to go ahead into the game because there's more demanded stuff ahead. I saw most people testing the initial areas, which is not a bad thing, but I think it's not realistic when it comes to game performance. That's why I tried to get further into the game, especially this one that has more enemy variety, effects on screen, boss fights that have a lot of effects on screen. Here, as you can see, if I was running to this place in circles, it would be 30, but again, not the norm. So yeah, I mean, it works, but in this location and in the open areas, here it drops into the 20s and the 19 FPS range pretty often. And outside, even on the first area, it's no different. So again, heavily memory limited. The GPU doesn't get its maximum clock speed because the CPU gets the frequency maxed out, so they have to share that 15-watt pool. So let's do something that I don't usually show you in my videos, that is modding this with a performance mod. I know, but trust me on this one. Let's give it a shot. I'll tell you what I installed. Since this mod includes an exe file for the game, it's not available on Nexus Mods, so you can follow the link in the description to Steam Deck HQ. He provided a link. I think it's safe. But as always, anything you do to your Steam Deck or PC is under your full responsibility, so you shouldn't be getting banned from the online mode or anything like that. But again, do it at your own risk. This is just for testing and educational purposes. Quick note, if the game crashes when you copy the files, the game just updated, so we had to use a new patch for this one. So each time the game updates, you gotta update the mod as well. So keep a lookout for the link for that. The latest will be always in the description if you want to check that out. Alright, so once you get that mod, hit the cog on Death Stranding 2, manage, browse local files. And inside the game itself, this main folder, I put the folder with the mod. So you have it here, the exe, the storage, and the storage core. I also paste the command over here, so just copy this command. Now hit properties instead of manage. And in the launch options, paste this stuff. Again, it's included with the mod. And then it's just a matter of grabbing this, copy, go back to the game's main folder, paste, and you have to overwrite all of them, those 3 files. Personally, I backed them up beforehand in case anything happens. It's easier than just verifying the files. We overwrite. And here's the 3 files. You should be ready to launch the game with the Eclipse mod. Okay, FSR 3 performance does help. We got a few extra frames. So let's keep it on FSR 3 for performance reasons. But again, as soon as you start walking, the game drops like a rock. It seems to be the way that the game is taking data from the PC. But instead of being into the low 20s, it's in the mid to upper 20s. So there is a performance improvement, definitely. More pop-in, more blurry textures. The shadows have worse draw distance. But again, we're going below the lowest settings with this mod. And I'm okay with that, considering we're closer to that 30 FPS target. Obviously, we're not getting there. And even if I go for ultra performance upscaling, I'm still going to be up here. But the thing that I notice the most is that the game now uses way more GPU than before, which is a good thing. But again, as soon as I get spotted or something chases me or anything special happens, you get a lot of performance drops. Welcome back to the very beginning of the game. Now instead of being into 25 FPS, we're in 31, so that's a big boost in performance. This is one of the places where it's the most obvious that we have a performance improvement. So GG for the Eclipse mod. It's definitely an improvement, but it doesn't make the game 100% playable on Steam Deck. But hey, here we are. Again, instead of 24, 25, we're at 32. We're still CPU bound, and the GPU actually is using more frequency than before. That means that the work is spread out better. So the CPU is doing less work. That means the GPU can put more juice. More juice can be put on the GPU, better said. So it definitely helps significantly, but it doesn't make the game playable, especially later on. The very beginning of the game is okay. Again, now instead of dropping into the 20s, it's into the 30s. I'm not sure we can really go further with the performance improvements on this one. So again, once we are out here, especially in this part next to the ship, it's going to drop significantly. I tried it on my high-end PC and I dropped frames quite a bit here. But as you can see now with the mod, the shadow popping is way more obvious. You can see it there just existing in front of us. And well, if you're using a sniper rifle, good luck, comrade. So here's the rifle, let's aim down sights. And when you're aiming down sights, actually the game has a spike of VRAM usage because it's loading something very quickly, which is the map ahead of you. Here's an example. I do this, and it drops frames pretty hard, although despite having a sudden surge of VRAM usage, it actually runs pretty well with the scope on. Maybe it's something that the mod adjusted. So yeah, again, this section hits the hardest, at least on PC for me. Alright, so fireworks. This section still has big performance drops, but again, this is more of a stress test to show you what to expect. The very beginning of the game is okay. Then when you get to more densely populated areas, and by densely populated I mean areas with a lot of geometry, long draw distances, which is something that this game does quite a bit, you're going to suffer. So the mod definitely improves things very significantly. I can notice it right away. But this game is definitely not a game I would play on Steam Deck, at least not natively on local hardware. Despite, I mean, this game looks fantastic. On the Steam Deck, obviously, we have a lot of visual downgrades, which sucks. But again, we're on portable handheld hardware from 2021 at the end of the day. So I'm honestly not surprised. And also, this is the Decima engine. This is the engine from that they use in the Horizon games. Horizon Forbidden West. It's a great example of that engine, and it doesn't run well on Steam Deck, and it has very big maps, which much faster traversal than this game ever does. But as you can see with the mod, it's a huge difference. There's also a tiny bit less VRAM usage with this mod, and I'm pretty sure that helps significantly because we're super memory limited, we are CPU limited, and that really takes a hit on the GPU frequency. So again, is it playable? In some parts it is. The beginning, some closed off areas like this one seems to be okay. But as soon as walking or running around the map more open happens with stuff into the distance, it drops like a rock. As I already put a lot of commands on this game in the launch options, instead of using lossless scaling, I'll use the in-game frame gen. So let's try FSR 3.1.6 frame gen. Let's apply 37 FPS versus here we're getting 60s. And you get, okay, I can feel the latency right away. Oh yeah, especially aiming. But what's the point that I'm trying to make here? Despite being frame gen, I'm against frame gen personally because I don't like the latency. On this game, I don't think it's a huge deal, considering that the shooting, all that stuff, is done way less often than in most games that I played. This game really is more walking and traversing than anything else. So I don't think you need those twitch reflexes. I'm maybe giving it a lot of credit, but hey, let's go outside. Alright, welcome back. We're now outside with frame gen on. Remember that this dropped us into the 20-ish FPS range, sometimes into the 18 FPS range. And why is frame gen so interesting? Well, frame gen, I can see some artifacts, especially with the foliage and moving the camera, but not super distracting. What is distracting us is that the game is at, well, 400p, starting from that, 400p, upscale to 800p. The textures are muddy, the draw distance is pretty poor, The shadow is going in slow motion because, yes, jittery because of frame gen. The game looks way smoother like this. It doesn't feel particularly smooth to play with the controls. It doesn't respond fantastically. But again, I'm mostly walking around, so that's what I can get away from it. If you're really not bothered by the visuals, which again is heavily cut back from what the PS5 looks like, and you don't mind some input lag, it does work. But again, it's not the best way to play it. Again, if it's your only platform, maybe. It's all up to you, of course. But with FrameGen, it really makes the experience way better than being locked to 19 FPS. At least it looks smoother. But again, considering responsiveness on this game for walking around and all that, I mean, there's worse ways to play the game, I guess. So again, would I play this on Steam Deck? Personally not, I wouldn't. With this mod it improves significantly, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's a super low resolution, first of all, as I said. Second, there's some input lag. Opinions on your side can vary if that bothers you or not. So I would personally just, if you have a PC, stream it from your PC using Moonlight. Again, link in the description on how to set that up. And if not, a streaming service. Maybe stream it from a PS5, stream it from the cloud. It will look significantly better. Latency will be very similar to using FrameGen, despite this being locally running on Steam Deck. But again, huge props to the Eclipse Mod guy. I downloaded his mod for Expedition 33 as well, and it works fantastically well. So yeah,
Don't be afraid.
you should use either FSR 3 performance, or if you don't mind a few less frames that we don't have, you can use Pico on performance. That looks better than FSR. But it's still internally 400p at the end of the day. It looks pretty damn good with Pico. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did checking out Death Stranding 2 on Steam Deck. Let me know in the comments if you would play it on Steam Deck like this, with FrameGen, with the mod, despite being an exe file that you have to paste on your game. And yeah, if you have a PC, also let me know if you will play it, stream it to the Steam Deck. I'll be interested to know. Let's see when we use the scanner. I mean, yeah, it works. When the UI shows up though, there is weird glitches with FrameGen. But again, it works. I think it's better than stock settings using this mod, at least when it comes to performance. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.